people, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to talk about how to get a national roster internship. Woo! It's not really that there's not that many steps to it, okay? But we're gonna dive in and talk about it anyway. So my university, I don't know why they just didn't, clinical placement supervisor didn't really advocate for national roster internships. I still to this day don't really know why, but the thing with national roster internships, though, you can go on the AMTA website and they have a whole list of them, right? And you have to keep in mind that when you go on the website that the ones that are listed, they're not all active. So if you want a national roster internship, you want to start early. So you want to start early looking at this list. So for example, let's see, I started looking at the national roster lists, I want to say December of my senior year of college. So, and that was too late. Okay. So, learn from my mistakes. Okay. So, so I started looking then because I tried to look spring semester junior year and it was too early. So why don't we split the difference? I mean, June, July is always a good kind of time, I think. Honestly, now I'm that's when the medical applications open up. That's when the dental applications open up for dental school and medical school, so I'm that's kind of June, July. But if you're on vacation, you know what I'm saying, I would definitely recommend looking it up, taking the time and looking it up that first week of school. That week, we always started school the week before Labor Day at college, and then that first week, a syllabus week. So I would really take the time syllabus week and go through the national roster internship sites that are, places that are listed on the website. So you want to go on the website during this time, this syllabus week. So it's August. You could do it June, July, August, right? But August, I would do that's when I would do it. I definitely the first or the last week in August, first week of school. Don't wait until December, and I'll tell you why in a little while. So and then you want to go on the website and you want to look up these national roster internships, and you want to create, you can write it down, but I'm a spreadsheet type of person, so I put it on a spreadsheet and I put down, the clinical site name, where it was located, the city and the state, and put the exact address down, okay? And then I put down population, I think time, because some sites are part-time, 4 days a week for 9 months, and other sites are full-time, 5 days a week for 6 months. So I put down the site. I put down if there was a stipend offered, and then I put down, I think, start dates, and then contact information, and then the website about where it has, so that way you could click on the website and then you could see the internship program on the website. So anyway, so that's what I did. And then I did it for, my situation, because some people do it by state. Some people will be oh, I want to live in New York State, so I'll do all of the ones in New York State. New York State, that's fine probably, but if you're New Jersey, there's one, you know what I mean? So you run, if you do it by state, you run the risk of having one site. So I would not recommend doing it that way. I wouldn't recommend doing it by state. I think you should organize it by population, by maybe how long the internship is. Is it 9 months? Is it 6 months? And of course by stipend. So that's how I organized my internships. I organized it by stipend because I needed food and housing to either be included, or I needed a stipend. There was no way I would be able to work for 6 months without any money. My parents were not going to support me. They didn't even have the means to support me. So that's why I organized it by stipend. Anyway, so then I went through the list and I sent an email out to everybody. And that's what I did. I first sent an email stating my interest in the internship, and I go to this university. I'm this, like, in this year. I'm really interested in the population of your internship. I'm currently living here, but I would really like to arrange, an audition, a meeting in the future. And the reason why I say that, like, December was too late, so I sent an email out first, right? I sent it out on a Friday, and then I called not that following Monday, but the Monday after. So it was about a week after I sent out the email, I called if I didn't hear back from anybody. Most people email me back, though. So the reason why I say don't do this process in December is because I did it, like, the second week in December, like right when the semester ended. And a lot of the internship placements, they were taking for the following year in January, not the current year, but like, so I would have had a gap year, okay? And that's really important to mention. There's this one national roster internship site called, like, the Center for Discovery, and that's a really competitive internship site. But them, for example, like, they already had their people picked. So if you wanted an internship at that site, for example, you would have had to, at least, like, I was too late to get it in December. So and then you have to keep in mind that if you apply, or at least if you contact them, when you're a junior, then it's, like, too early. So that's why I think June, July, August is, like, the best time to start contacting. Like, have an idea in mind, because, like, you do go to conference, like, junior year of college. That's what I did, and then I got all the brochures, and then I kind of sifted through them. And then when you create that master list, you'll have an idea. Another thing I forgot to mention about the spreadsheet is certain internship sites will offer, like, 5 spots. Some places will offer 1. So that's something else that I put in there too. I forgot to mention that. Anyway, because, like, the reason why it doesn't really matter, because sometimes they'll, like, change the numbers. So it's not, you don't have to put it in there, but I put it in there. So anyway, so I emailed everybody with my interest, and some people, I want to say there were, like, 2 internship sites that were, like, oh, because I didn't contact the National Center for Discovery. I do not improv, okay, and they're all about improv, so that's why I didn't contact them. I just know that theirs is really competitive, okay. So anyway, so I did contact 2 internship sites, 2 national roster internship sites, and they did say, oh, they already picked their people, And that's fine. You want to keep it on the back burner because, like, you could do a gap year before your internship, but, like, I personally didn't want to. I couldn't afford it either, but you could. And then moving forward, I want to say at least, now I had, like, 20 sites on this list, okay? So there were at least 10 of them that said that their internship program was inactive. 10 out of 20. Like, that's so bad. So that's why I'm telling you guys, you need to contact these people ahead of time, because, like, they might be an inactive site even though they're listed on the national roster website. And this happens a lot. Like, it's not the AMTA's fault. Okay, like, it happens sometimes, there'll be a change of hands, and, like, the clinical supervisor will go on maternity leave, and then maybe they never come back, or they get, like, a job offer, and then they go to a different site and they don't find a replacement. So it's not the AMT's fault. Like, I understand that, like, they're the ones that keep this updated, but sometimes stuff happens at the clinical site and then they don't tell the AMTA about it because they don't want to lose their accreditation. So that's why it's important for you guys to reach out ahead of time, so then that way you can figure it out before and not get stressed. So there you go. That I had 20 sites on this spreadsheet, and 12 of them I couldn't apply to, right? Because 2 of them already picked their people, and then 10 of them were not a thing anymore. So anyway, so I took what I had and then I applied and I got all the information. I wanted them to get to know me. I called, set up appointments, filled out the applications. I only, again, I think this was because of my self-confidence issue. I only got like 2 auditions out of all the sites. I don't know. I feel that the more confident you are, the more possibilities are handed to you in the world. And at this point in my life, I was not confident. No, duh, because like I never did music therapy before. But this was kind of the ratio, like even applying to jobs, it was this way until I started acting as if I had confidence. So anyway, at the time, it wasn't that bad. It was pretty good for me that I got 2. But now looking back on it, I'm like, 2? 2 callbacks, 2 interviews, 2 auditions, like that's like not good odds, but whatever, that's the way it was. So one internship was in New Jersey, the audition, and that was, I think it took me like 2 hours to get there from where I was living at the time, and then the other one was in New York State, and that took like 10 hours to get there. So anyway, so that's something to keep in mind, that when you do these national roster internships, they are going to be in different places. What ended up happening, so the internship that was in New Jersey, because I used to live in New Jersey, was near where I used to live, and that drive I did by myself. It sucked, okay? But like the interview was like in the afternoon. I think it was like around 4-ish. So I left my place around like noon just to make sure I had enough time. I left the interview. The interview was about like an hour and a half because they gave me a tour of the place and all that stuff, and then the audition and everything. So the interview, it was about an hour and a half, and then of course, that puts you at 5:30, and I had to go. I'll never forget, like, I didn't think that I did that great because I was, like, nervous, and they asked me to write a song, and I'm not a songwriter. I don't write songs. I'm a performer. And they asked me to write a song, and they asked me to, improv. Yet again, I don't improv, okay? These are not it's almost like I'm a math and science person. It's almost like throwing me into a spelling bee. It's like I don't do spelling. Like I'm a math and science person. Like, and that's kind of how I felt. So I didn't really think it went that well. Anyway, and I'll never forget driving home, passing the Bridgewater Commons Mall. This mall is like wonderful, by the way. Definitely check it out, okay? But like, I remember I was driving on the highway, passing the Bridgewater Commons Mall, and there was legit so much traffic. Oh, it was horrible. And like, all I wanted to do was pull into the Bridgewater Mall and like go shopping and celebrate the fact that I got the interview over with. But like, I couldn't because, I'm still in school and I had homework to do and I had classes the next day. And it was like this horrible feeling because I just wanted to get my mind off of the audition and off of the interview, and it was very stressful because this was my ideal placement. And I just wanted to go shopping to celebrate, and I couldn't because I was crazy with work. Now, moving forward, when I had my first job interview, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go shopping after, because there was a DSW like near my first job interview. So I learned from my mistake. That's the major point. But like, I did go shopping after my first job interview. But during that time in my life when I did my internship audition, I didn't. And I know you can kind of see the maturity. Not necessarily, maturity might not be the correct term, but like, you can see that when I auditioned for my internship, I was not in a good place mentally. Like, I didn't do well improving. I didn't do well writing a song. I was bitter about it, and I was thinking about it, and I didn't treat myself to the mall to get my mind off it. So clearly you can tell that, like, I still had a long way to go, and I still had a lot to learn. But then when I interviewed for my first job, you know, I had more confidence, you know, oh, who cares? It's the first job interview. I have 5 more. I'm going to go shopping and get my mind off it. So clearly you can tell that there was a change in maturity level and a change in self-care and a change in mindset. So that's something to keep in mind, okay? Because you are going to change over time, and that's really important. And the person you are when you audition for your internship is not going to be the person you are when you audition for that first job. That's something else to keep in mind. So anyway, so that was the first internship audition interview. The second one, like I told you, was in Rochester, New York. It was 10 hours away from where I was living. And the audition was like 9 or 10. It was in the morning. And they literally told me, okay, this is like sign number 1, okay? They told me to go to that interview. Like they told me, I think on Wednesday, to go on Friday. And it's not atypical. Jobs do that all the time where they give you like 2 days notice, right? So anyway, the whole day on Thursday, because I still had classes on Thursday, and like you can miss music therapy classes sometimes depending on the professor. My professor let us miss class to audition for internships, but I had other classes too. Like I had math, I had science, I had psychology, and those classes I couldn't necessarily miss to go on an internship interview, right? So I ended up leaving because they told me Wednesday night. I ended up leaving Thursday early afternoon, and by the time, because it was going to be a 10-hour drive, and I had an interview and an audition and all this stuff, my mom ended up coming, and she drove me, so then that way I could sleep in the car, like I could prep in the car, I could sleep in the car, I could do homework in the car, which I did do, and it was really rough. It was awful. And we got to the hotel room, we ate dinner, got to the hotel room, and I barely looked over things, and then I fell asleep, and I didn't sleep well, of course, and then woke up the next morning. My mom had the lovely breakfast that the hotel offered, and I didn't. I just took it to go. And then I ended up spending like the whole day at the internship because again, it was one of those where it was actually really long. The audition was really long at that one because I got there like 9, 10-ish, and then I didn't end up leaving until like 5. It was so long. And the main reason why it was long is because they wanted to show me like everything and the site and then the day in the life and all this stuff and the clients. At the New Jersey internship site, I don't think I was allowed to like see the clients and see sessions just because of like the rules of the facility. Whereas the New York one, I could actually see and sit in on the sessions. But the interview was like so long. And it was bad because like, obviously I was tired and stressed and like we drove like 10 hours to get to Rochester, New York. It was in Rochester, New York, and then like I didn't sleep well, and like I was just so mentally drained. I was so done. And like anyway, so the internship, the audition didn't go well. And for that audition, I had to, the interview part went well, but then they asked me, okay, and this is another key sign. They asked me, like, why my mother drove me, and, like, am I going to be homesick if I get this internship? And I was just like, that is not, like that's a concern for sure, but like you do not ask people anything about their personal lives in an interview, period. Like you don't ask, like if somebody walks into an interview and they're pregnant, which happens when you like interview for medical schools. If somebody walks into an internship or walks into an interview for a job and like they just bought a new house or they just got married, like you don't ask, like maybe you notice a ring on their finger, but you don't ask. You never ever are allowed to ask people about their personal lives in a work-related setting. And the fact that at this internship, and this wasn't the only place, like this internship and a couple of my job interviews further down the road asked me very inappropriate questions about my personal life. And it's like, and they think they can get away with it because you're naive and you've never been on that many interviews before, but they can't get away with it. So in the interview, I said, like, you know, that's none of, like, it's none of your business, you know, like, and I said, like, you know, it's 10 hours away and I needed to be well rested and prepared, and that's why she drove, because I needed to prep in the car. I've lived away at school for 4 years. I don't get homesick, and it's none of, you shouldn't be asking me that question. You're making me feel very uncomfortable. That's what I said, and I don't really think that was something wrong. I don't think telling them that they made me feel uncomfortable was anything wrong. I don't know, maybe it was, I don't know, but then I did my interview. Or I did my audition. This was another thing that was like messed up. I did my audition, and it was supposed to be a session plan for a child with autism. And this woman acted as the child, but she didn't necessarily. She was supposed to be the child, but she acted as herself. I hate when people do that in music therapy sessions, because like, it just makes you can't feed off of it, you know what I'm saying? So that was like annoying and messed up. And then I left, and then we drove home, and then I went to bed, and it was bad. And I didn't even get to rest the weekend, because like I had to make up all this homework and stuff like that. So and then my mom ended up, when she was there, she went to the Great Lakes, and that like kind of, not that it annoyed me, but like we drove all the way to Rochester for this interview, and all I did was business, and I didn't even go and see the Great Lakes, or one of the Great Lakes. I don't really know what lake is over there, but I wanted to go and I didn't get to, because it was all business. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Well, when you go on trips for work, sometimes it is only business. But at that time, I could have taken a second to breathe. I could have like, no, you know what? This assignment is gonna wait, and I'm gonna go see the Great Lake, you know? But I didn't at the time. And that, again, that's something to be said about my mental health. That like I wasn't at a point in my life where I could just take a second to smell the roses. And I definitely changed, because now all I do is, no, I'm just kidding. I still don't smell the roses. But the point is that now I can pinpoint times when, you know, don't let somebody make you, you know, let somebody make you feel crazy. You know, don't like get so caught up in your head, like let things go, you know, and I was that way when I auditioned for my first job. That's something to keep in mind, again, that you're not the same person when you audition for your internship as you are for your job. So anyway, I ended up hearing back from both sites, I think the first week in May, and I got to choose. That was a big struggle. I went a whole month and a half without knowing. And then, you know, there's local internships that you can audition for, but like if you go to a local internship and you like apply and you get in, then you can't take a national roster internship offer. Like, you know, you're set. So I didn't apply anywhere, and it was very scary, because I could have not gotten into either, you know, and it was horrible. And anyway, I just like didn't think about it. And then I had to do my final paper for school, because this is senior year, spring semester at this point. That's something else. So I applied to these sites in December. I got called in for the interviews February, March, and then I heard back that first week in May, end of April, beginning of May, that first week of May, technically. So that's something to keep in mind. And then you're supposed to start, I think both sites I was supposed to start in July, possibly. I ended up starting in September, but we'll get to that in a second. So yeah, so I was like waiting, and I tried not to think about it. And there was this local internship site in Maryland that was like the last, you know, like if I don't get into these two sites, like nobody else at my university is applying to this local site, so it would be a guaranteed in. But again, like some people don't really have that ability, and this place, this local internship, I there was no stipend. I would have had to like stay with somebody. It wasn't really like going to be the best learning environment. So moving forward, I ended up hearing back from both sites in the same week, and I got the luxury of choosing, and I chose to go to Metheny Medical in New Jersey, and it was great. And the main reason why I chose that site is just because I felt like they handled everything a lot more maturely. I didn't necessarily get to see a session when I went there. That was like the one negativity part. But they gave me plenty of notice, arranging the date to come. They even gave me the option of choosing when to take my drug test. But that was pretty cool. and then they spent a decent amount of time with me, gave me, I had to write a song and all that, and it made me uncomfortable, but they didn't ask any inappropriate questions during my internship or during my interview. And so I ended up choosing that internship. And what ended up happening was they took 3 interns that year. So 2 interns started in the summer, and then I started in September. I also went on tour. Because I got in and I went on tour with the cadets that summer. So that's what ended up happening. That was my story. It was rough. I think, number one, if you're trying to get into national roster internships, like, you gotta start early. You have to have an idea in mind of where you want to go. So, like, decide, sophomore, junior year, and then start, like, emailing and creating a master list in June, July, August, before your senior year starts. And then go about the interviews and the auditions that senior year. Your skills, your music skills, just to let you guys know, on a scientific standpoint, your music skills are going to be at their par when you're a senior in college, just because you have all these lessons and all these resources and all of this ability, right? And your bodies are starting to get stronger and know how to, like, do that mind-body connection in terms of playing. So you are at your peak musically when you're a senior in college. It only gets better, honestly. Like, I think my musical skills have only gotten better just because because I go to the gym now, so my body definitely has that mind-body connection that's better. But that's something to keep in mind, so don't be, like, ashamed. And everybody is in the same boat. Like, some people that major in piano are, of course, going to be better at piano than you, but for the most part, nobody knows what they're doing when they lead a music therapy session. And just be open with yourself. Like, I do not improv. I do not write songs. I am not good at it, and it makes me uncomfortable. So it's important to say that if an internship, like, if a question comes up, what are your weaknesses? You should say, I'm not good at improv and I'm not good at songwriting, but I'm trying to get better. These are the steps that I'm taking to get better. So say it and just be honest and really have a conversation with the interviewee. That's what I felt very, very comfortable having a conversation at my New Jersey internship audition. I didn't feel comfortable at the New York one. So that's something to keep in mind too. I know it's hard because if you only have 2, you don't want to be picky, but it is important, especially because you're going to be spending a decent amount of time at your internship, a lot of hours at your internship. So it's important to sort of interview the site and interview the interviewee or the clinical supervisor. It's important to interview them just like they're interviewing you. That's a general rule of thumb. I even follow it when I go on job interviews. So there you go. So you just want to be the best. You want to be the best candidate you can possibly be. And the first way to start is getting everybody to know who you are. Internship site-wise, creating a master list, reaching out, talking to your professors. I wouldn't take your clinical director, like at your university, your clinical site manager, I wouldn't take their advice too seriously. Take it with a grain of salt. They kind of fall into that guidance counselor spot where, like guidance counselors in high school will tell you things and you want to take it with a grain of salt because they're not necessarily accurate, yeah, no shade, but it's your future. It's not theirs. So they're not going to really care about it as much as you, and they're not going to know how hard you actually can push yourself like you will know. But I firmly recommend applying to national roster internships. Like, I strongly suggest it, even though it's hard, even though it's difficult, even though it's really competitive. It's only going to make you a stronger person. And if you apply and you don't get in, well, there are local internships out there, right, that you can apply to. So no harm, no foul, no time is lost. And you did develop the skills and you did learn how to present yourself in a job interview. And I'm sure you will learn about yourself going through this national roster internship process. So that's the point. I recommend going for it and just trying. What's the worst that can happen? They say no. And like I mentioned before, I mean, let's just say both internships didn't want me and I was stuck. Well, I learned a lot about myself in that process. I learned that when I went for my internship interviews, I didn't know how to stop, smell the roses, and take a deep breath and treat myself. Okay, I was all business all the time, and that's not necessarily good. And then when I went for my job interviews, it changed, and I learned how to take a deep breath and how to calm myself down and how to take time for myself when necessary. So that's something important that I learned, and you're going to learn a skills or a skill like that if you go for a national roster internship. I will say that the competition process of the national roster music therapy internship really prepared me for med school. And now when it comes time for residency, I had to go through that music therapy national roster junk. I can do it again. So that's what I have to say. That's why I think it's good for everybody to try and everybody to just give it a go and see what happens and learn from the experience, because you never know, you might be in that same type of experience again and it might seem better, or you might have the skills to overcome it like I do. So there you go. I say go for it. Shoot for your dreams. You got one life to live. We're here for a good time, not a long time. So go for the national roster internships. Just go for it. What's the worst that can happen? Okay. Thank you guys so much. Talk to you later. Bye.